Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So now continuing the next part of the solution for 2023. Okay, so I thought that okay, let's first complete the the group B part. Okay, then I will complete the rest part of the group A. Okay, so what is the next question? Just I'm zooming it. So just have a look. The question is saying that a bullet from a gun. Just a minute. So a bullet from a gun is fired on a rectangular wooden block with a velocity u. When a bullet travels 24 cm through the block along with the length horizontally, the velocity of the bullet becomes u by 3. So then it further penetrates into the block in the same direction before coming to the rest exactly at the other end of the block. So the total length of the block is. So the question is, the question framework will be something like that. Just try to understand. Suppose this is my wooden block. Okay, so this is my wooden block, and what is happening that this is the entry point, and at the entry point the bullet, let us assume that the bullet had a velocity u, and after traveling a distance of 24 centimeters, suppose at this particular point P, the velocity has become how much? U by 3. And after when it will come at the another extreme end, the velocity will become 0. Now let us assume that the rest part of the block has a length of x. Okay, so that means automatically the total length of the block is becoming 24 plus x. Is that very clear? Okay, so now basically if I just, so basically 3 points are there. Suppose this is point A, this is point B, and this is point P and point B. So between point A and point P, can I write down the equation like that? U by 3 whole square equals to u square minus 2a into 24. Because obviously here the v square equals to u square minus 2a, simply I have applied the equation. Okay, and obviously acceleration, this is the retardation due to the resistance force provided by the wooden block. Okay, so just if this is my this is my equation number 1. Is it very clear? Now another equation which I can write between equation P and equation B. So this is between equation A and P, and in another equation I can write it down here like that. That will be 0 equals to u by 3 whole square minus 2a into x, because it has covered a distance 2ax. Okay, so this is equation number 2. Another third equation I can also write in between the initial point and the final point. The equation will become 0 square equals to u square minus 2a into, then the total length will be 24 plus x, isn't it? Very simple. So if it is so, then just from this equation I can solve that u square equals to 2a into 24 plus x. Simple. And from this equation, just have a look that from the second equation which I wrote here, according to that equation I think I got u square by 9 equals to 2ax. That means in simple terms u square is actually equal to how much? Just a minute. Yeah, this is 18ax, isn't it? And according to this equation, this is u square equals to 2a into 24 plus x. Just equate them, then just have a look what you are getting. That is equals to 18ax. So a is getting cancelled, so 24 plus x is actually equal to 9x. So that means 24 equals to 8x, and I think 8 equals to 3 centimeter. Okay, so that means I have found out the length of the 3. So that means this much of distance. So this distance between P and B is actually how much? 3 centimeter. You have been asked that what is the total length of the wooden block. So the total length of the wooden block was I think 24 plus x. That means the total length is coming out to be finally 27 centimeter. How much? 27 centimeter. So your correct option is what? 27 centimeter. Clear? Okay. Come to the next question. The next question is saying that, okay, just is it very clear? So can I erase this part? Okay. Now next to the second question. The second question is saying that the radius of the innermost orbit of the hydrogen atom is 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 11 meter. Then what is the radius of third allowed orbit of a hydrogen atom? So now you must know that in general for n number of orbit, for nth orbit of a for nth orbit of a hydrogen-like atom. Hydrogen-like atom means hydrogen, helium plus, lithium 2 plus, like that. The radius of the nth orbit actually can be calculated as r0 into n square by z, where r0 is the radius of the first orbit of that hydrogen-like species or hydrogen-like atom. Okay, and what is n? N is obviously the number of orbit, and z is obviously, just a minute. Okay, so just remember, and here you can clearly see that here the value of r0 is clearly given to be 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 11 meter, isn't it? And what is n here? You know that, okay, you have been asked to find out the radius for third allowed orbit for hydrogen atom. So obviously for hydrogen atom z, the value of z is 1, and obviously n is 3. Just if you just put the values here, then automatically the radius of the third orbit will come as 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 11 into 3 square by 1. So simply you have to multiply 9 into 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 11. Okay, and if I am not wrong, it is coming out to be how much? And please remember that whatever value you will get, it will come in meter, isn't it? Because actually the r0, I have put the value r0 in meter, so to convert it into angstrom I have to multiply it in by 10 to the power 10, then it will be converted into angstrom. So it will be automatically become 9 into 5.3 into 10 to the power minus 1 angstrom. So if you just calculate it, it will come as 4.77 angstrom. Okay, so your correct option is going to be how much? 4.77 angstrom, option 3. Clear? Very good. Now come to the second question, question number 38. What will be the question number 38? So the question number 38 is clearly saying that, just a minute, yeah, calculate the maximum acceleration of a moving car so that a body lying on the floor of the car remains stationary. So the coefficient of the static friction between the body and the floor is given 0.15. Just a minute. Yeah. So according to a question, suppose there is a car. So suppose this is your car, and upon the car there is a body. Suppose this is the body, and now the question is that what should be the maximum acceleration of the moving car so that the body lying on this particular floor have to be stationary. So if I just try to draw a very simple free body diagram, then it will become like that. Suppose just I can say that, okay, the maximum possible acceleration is a, so that the particle will remain stationary. Now the question is that why the question is how it can remain stationary, because we actually know that whenever a body is actually moving with the acceleration a, then what happens, it actually experiences a pseudo force, isn't it? So now basically if the particle has to be stationary, then the total external force on that particular body has to be 0, isn't it? This is a very simple thing. Now the question automatically comes that, okay, just a minute. Now basically it is very clear, then since the body or since the car is moving with the acceleration a, then if the mass of that particular body is m, then it will experience a pseudo force exactly in the opposite direction, and it will be equal to m into a. But you have to understand that there is a frictional force in between the car and the body, and this is resisting, or this is trying to resist the relative motion between the body and the surface. So automatically whenever the body lying on the car is experiencing a pseudo force in this direction, then automatically the friction will start acting in this direction, so that it will try to make it static. So very simple answer is that a frictional force, a static friction, will start on acting in this direction, isn't it? So and it will try to resist it up to a level, isn't it? So according to the question, if the total force has to be 0 on this particular body so that it can remain stationary, the ma has to be equal to the static friction, and static friction is actually equal to the mu s into m into g, because obviously it has a weight mg, and it is actually exerting a normal reaction n. So actually n equals to mg, and that is why actually this is mu s into n, and since it is equal to mg, so it will become mu s into mg into ma. So the maximum possible acceleration has to be mu s into G. Okay, so the value of the mu s was simply given how much? That was 0.15. 0.15 multiplied by 10 meter per second square. Okay, so it will simply come out to be 1.5 meter per second square. The question is clear. Okay, so your correct option is going to be how much? 1.5 meter per second square. Clear? Okay, very good. Now come to the next question. Question number 39. Question number 39 is simply saying that 10 resistors, each of resistance R, are connected in series to a battery of EMF E, and of negligible internal resistance. Okay, then those are connected in parallel to the same battery, the current is increased n times. So the value of n is, so the simple concept here is that okay, so yeah, so the question was like that. Just try to understand the concept. They are telling about that first. What you have done, you have taken, just a minute, 10 resistors along with a battery. Okay, so there are 10 resistors like that. So in such a manner, there are 10 resistors are connected in series, and they are further connected with a battery having a negligible internal resistance and EMF E, and they have all the resistance of R. So if it is so, then in that condition, the current, suppose in the circuit the current is flowing is I1. So clearly the current I1 will come out to be E by 10R, because obviously if you just replace all the 10 resistance by one resistance, automatically their resistance will be 10R. So simply the current in the circuit will be E by 10R. Very clear. Now try to understand that. Now in the new situation, when I have arranged all the 10 resistance in parallel, so in such a situation, so there are 10 rows, obviously 10 rows, and then further I have joined with a same battery of EMF E and internal resistance R. So in this new situation, what will be the new resistance, or what will be the new current? Can you say that? So obviously you can understand that now if I, and obviously now all the resistance are R. Now if I just try to replace all the resistance by only one single resistance, then the resistance of that equivalent resistance will be R by 10, isn't it? And obviously there will be a battery E. So now you tell me, now in the new situation, if the current is I2, then now tell me what will be I2. I2 will be E divided by R by 10. That means it will become 10 times E by R. So it is E2 is 10 times E by R, where I1 was E by 10R. Just have a look on this. Clear? Now, so now the question arises that I2 is how many times of I1? That is the question. According to it, that is nothing but the n. So basically n should be I2 divided by I1. And now according to your question, I2 is nothing but what I have found it out, that is 10 times E by R, and this is E by 10R. So very clearly the value of n is coming to be how much? Tell me. This is 100. Okay, so your correct option is nothing but 100. Clear? Very good. Now come to the next question, question number 40. Now the question number 40 is saying that a horizontal bridge is built across a river. A student standing on a bridge throws a small ball vertically upward with a velocity 4 meters per second. Now a ball strikes the water surface again at 4 seconds. So the height of the bridge above the water surface is. Okay, so now the question, so the concept of the question is like that. They are trying to say that, okay, suppose this is the level of the river, and just suppose that this is a bridge above which a boy was standing, and he has thrown a ball upward with a velocity 4 meters per second. And so obviously the motion of the ball will be simply like that. It will first go up, then the velocity will become 0, and then it will fall down to the river. And throughout the process, the time taken is basically equals to 4 seconds according to the question. So that is why, if now I just want to calculate this much height, the height between the height of the bridge from the river. So now it is very clear. Now if I just want to, so what formula I will apply here? H equals to U2 plus half gt square. But here the sign convention is very important. I just want to make you remember that what is the sign convention. The very clear sign convention says that, since just remember the Cartesian coordinate system, anything above I will take it to be positive, anything below I will take it to be negative. Try to understand that okay, another thing you should remember, that y equals to ut plus half at squared. In this particular equation, the y is actually displacement, not a distance, and that is why although the trajectory of the ball is like that, it is first ascending up and then it is descending up, but I will take only the displacement. That means the distance between the starting point and the ending point. So the starting point is this and the ending point is this. So the the difference between the starting point and the ending point is h only. That means the distance between the bridge and the river only. So you must not be confused that okay I have to, कोई स्टूडेंट ऐसे सोच सकता है कि शायद मुझे ये पूरा डिस्टेंस को लेना है, बिल्कुल नहीं, ठीक है ना. तो सिंपली the net movement of the ball is downward, and that is why we always take it to be negative. Okay, very clear. And what about the velocity? The velocity is upward. I have projected the velocity upward, so obviously the velocity I will take it to be positive, and g is always negative because acceleration due to gravity always acts downward towards the center of the earth, so it is always negative. So the equation which I will apply will be minus h. Why I am using minus h? Because it is ultimately going down. Okay, that will be plus ut. Why I am using plus ut? Because the velocity of the particle is above, minus half gt square, and that should be your equation. And now you just put the values, it will clearly, you will give the answer. So it is nothing but 4 multiplied by 4 into half into g is 10, and this is 4 square. So this is coming out to be 16, so this is 80. So h is coming out to be minus is exactly 64 meter, and that is why h is equals to 64 meter. Okay, so this is the answer. Clear? Okay, so the next question is question number 41. So it is saying that the net impedance of the circuit. Okay, so such a circuit is given. So obviously in a RCL circuit, for a RCL circuit, the impedance is actually calculated as, you all know, that r square plus omega L minus 1 by omega C whole square. Simple. Now how to calculate omega? Now see, the frequency has been given 50 Hertz. So you know that omega is actually calculated as 2 pi f. So it is actually going to be how much? This is going to be, if I am not wrong, 100 pi. Okay, so just you have to just put all the values here. So just let me put the values. So r is how much? 10 square plus omega is 100 pi into what is L? The value of L is given as 50 by pi millihenry. So just multiply this 50 by pi into 10 to the power minus 3. You have to do, obviously you can understand here, whole divided by what is omega? Omega is 100 pi into what is C? C is given to be, if I am not wrong, 10 cube, right? Just a minute. Yeah, this is 10 cube into pi. Okay, so again this is also, it has been also given in microfarad. So that means you have to multiply it by 10 to the power minus 6. I think you should not have any confusion in the part. You have to be very much cautious regarding the units. Okay, so automatically it is coming out to be how much? Just a minute. So whole square. Okay, so this is 100 plus pi is getting cancelled out, and here also pi is getting cancelled out. So I think if I am not wrong, this is 5 into, this is 5, I think, purely 1 divided by, just try to understand, this is coming down to be how much? This is 10 square, so into 10 cube, that means that is 10 to the power 5 into 10 to the power minus 6. I think that is 10 to the power minus 1, that means that is coming out to be 10. So that is whole square. So this is coming out to be 100 plus 25 root over of 125. So and clearly 125 is actually what? 5 cube. So 5 into 5 into 5. So if you just take out the root, it will come out to be 5 root 5 ohm. Okay, so the correct option is coming out to be how much? This is coming out to be option 2. Okay, clear? Now come to the next question. The next question is a little bit tricky one. The next question says that a satellite is orbiting just above the surface of the earth with a time period t. Now if the d is the density of the earth and g is the universal gravitational constant, then the quantity 3 pi by gd represents. So now here I will, you have to understand to solve this question. So when a satellite is revolving around the sun, then this whenever any planet is revolving around the sun, then what happens? Or uh, whenever a satellite is revolving around the earth, then what happens? The time period is actually calculated. You all know that this is calculated as 2 pi r by v, whereas the v is calculated as root over of gm by r. You all know this thing. So if I just put the value here, then it will become 2 pi r divided by root over of gm into r to the power half. Just it will go upward. So the time period is actually calculated as 2 pi r to the power 3 by 2 whole root over of g into m. So this is the time, this is the formula of the time period, right? Now try to understand that what is now the mass of a mass for any bomb. It may be earth, it may be sun. So if the radius is earth and if mass is m, then it can be represented in a way. If suppose I am taking the density of that earth is to be d, so the mass can be written as volume into density, you all know. So now what is the volume? Volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube into density. Now just put the value here, then it will become as the time period is equal to 2 pi r to the power 3 by 2 whole divided by root over of g into 4 by 3 pi r cube into d. Clear? Now just try to solve. So actually this is the formula. You have to just fast make out. Then if you solve this, just a minute, if you just solve this, then just do one thing, just square this, then what will happen? It will become 4 pi square r to r cube divided by g into 4 by 3 pi r cube. Sorry, just make it make it smaller. These are the same thing. Okay, so this is r cube into d. Okay, so automatically the 4 is getting cancelled out, the pi will cancel out, r cube will be cancelled out. So t square is actually equal to coming down to be 3 pi by gd. Now come back to your question. The question was 3 pi by gd represents. So obviously clearly you can see that 3 pi by gd actually represents the t square or the time period square. Okay, so obviously your current option is going to be t square. Okay, now come to the next question, question number 43. Okay, so question number 43 is two thin lenses are of same focal lengths, but one is convex, another being concave. When they are placed in contact with each other, what is the equivalent focal length of the combination will be? So it is very clear that suppose this is a, try to understand that this is a convex lens and another concave lens of same focal length has been placed one along another. So if now you have to understand that suppose the focal length of the convex lens is f, and the concave lens has also the same focal length, but you have to understand that the concave lens has always a negative focal length, and that is why you have to take it to be minus f. Now for any two combination of lens, the equivalent focal length is calculated as by this formula 1 by f equivalent is equals to 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. Now it is very clear that f physically it is 1 by f for suppose this is the number 1 lens and this is the number 2 lens, but automatically it is minus 1 by f. So 1 by f equivalent is coming out to be 0, for which the equivalent focal length is coming out to be ultimately how much? This is infinity. This is very simple. So very clearly your the focal length of the combination is coming out to be how much? Infinity. Clear? Very good. Now come to the next question. For the following logic circuit, the truth table is. So if you just follow the thing, you will clearly understood that this will be question of option number 1. Why? Just check it. Okay, if one a and b is 0 0, then automatically it will become 1 1, and then it will become 1 and opposite will be 0. So clear? If it is 0 and if this is 1, so it will become 1 and it will become 0, and then after that what will happen? This will become 0, and after AND gate it will become ultimately 1, right? So this is also true. Now come to the third option. It is 1 and this is 0, so 0 1, and then ultimately it will become 1. So this is also correct. And if both are 1, if both the input will be 1, then it will become 0, and it will become 0, ultimately it will be 1. So very clearly the correct answer is going to be option 1. Okay.